Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Purana Sindhu, Dinabandhu, Jagatpade, Gopisha, Gopi Kanta, Radha. All right, so I requested that there be questions this morning. So let's see first who has questions.
I have a question.
Babaji has one. Okay, wait. Anybody else?
I have a question.
2, 3, 4. Okay, Babaji, you were first.
Okay, so nowadays, musical instruments like the harmonium and the guitar have become commonplace in Kirtan and Bhajan. But these instruments have the capacity to draw the sentiment and the emotions in the wrong direction due to their sweet sounds. So how can those of us who are musically inclined, who want to offer that to Krishna, avoid that?
Yeah, interesting. So let's look at a little of the history of the musical instruments and what part they play. The Sankirtan movement is basically, it is started by Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And the two instruments for the Sankirtan, which was started 500 years ago by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was the kol, which is a drum, and the kartals, kol and kartals. Now, if you examine these, examine means you take a look at these instruments, they are what? They are, I don't even know how to speak about it in terms of music, but from what little I know and what I can observe, they are rhythm setters, they are pace setters, they are like dun 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 dun. It's just faster or slower, but it's just a rhythm. And rhythm is the accompanying sound. Whereas in music, you have lead guitar going ding, 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 going all over the place, but bass is going boom, 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 boom. Drums are going right? It's just setting the thing, and then you have lead guitar. Well, in Kirtan and Bhajan, you don't have lead instruments. Well, you do, but the lead instrument is the voice. In classical music in India, voice is the supreme instrument. Voice can set everything. The tone is at C, D, A minus B, whatever. Music, the tone. Voice can set the tone. Voice can set the rhythm. Voice can do everything that any other instrument can do, but every other instrument is limited, even a lead guitar, you see. A lead guitar cannot, let's say if there's a song in a lead guitar, it can set, all kind of like musical things within improvisation, within the beat and everything, but it can't communicate knowledge. Guitar can't go, I love you. The voice is, I love you, right? So the voice is the supreme instrument, you see. So in Kirtan and Bhajan, well, they're pretty much, any Kirtan without Bhajan is not really Kirtan. Bhajan means the emotion, the devotion, the emotion within devotion, which becomes love of Krishna. That cannot be communicated by any instrument. Almost a little bit of an instrument can set like, it's a sad song, it's a song of excitement and celebration, right? But still, if the words aren't there, you're not really sure. Is this a love song? Is this a revolutionary song? Is this a death overture, whatever they call it? You can't understand. The voice can tell you exactly what kind of song this is. So for the musically inclined, you're kind of limited in Kirtan and Bhajan. You're not supposed to improvise. You're not supposed to take the lead in any way. I noticed if Maitreya, maybe you're watching, Maitreya was, very, and still is very musically talented with guitar and sitar. But he just couldn't bring himself to do the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2. He just wanted to be all over the fret, you know, up and down. That's the music. So in bhajan and kirtan in the temple, your musical instruments, whatever it is, and guitar got accepted in the West. And a little bit there in India at the surf ashram, if somebody knows guitar, they might play a little guitar. In Mexico, I think it's always been there from the time of Prabhupada. There's films of Prabhupada in Mexico City, and then the camera moves out to the lawn in front of the temple or the back of the house, whatever. And there were devotees having kirtan with guitar.
Chichikananda, I think, is founded that.
Yeah. Yes. But if you were playing guitar at Mangal Artik and Prabhupada was there, you might hear, "Stop that." Harmonium was never allowed in Mangal Artik or any of these things. And it kind of eked its way into evening Artik a little bit because you would get guests. And the beautiful thing about these instruments is they set the key. For example, our beloved Vishnu Maharaj is pretty much tone deaf, especially, and so is Jayadev and a lot of other people, especially if they are singing and trying to catch a note, and I'm pretty much that way too. I'm half tone deaf. They can't catch a note. But if the note, the key, whatever you call it, the key is already there in the harmonium, then it's easier for them, and especially with practice, to learn to actually catch a note and follow the key. The key, is that what you call it, the key or the note? The note can be set by, are we playing this in C or D or A plus or minus or whatever it is. That can be set by the instrument. And that sometimes helped a lead singer from going off left or right of the note, you see. So in that way, it's very good. But Prabhupada never liked harmonium in the morning. Now, you go back in time, harmonium is no more Vedic than the guitar. Prabhupada played it in his home. Bhaktisiddhanta never played it in any of his temples. Why? Why? Because the Sahajiyas captured that instrument. And they played a sweet song. And then they go into the crying. It's like, get that thing out of here. So it was banned because of that. One time in Calcutta, I bought a small harmonium. And I was staying in Govinda Maharaj's temple in Dum Dum Park, I think it was called. And in the afternoon, I kind of unpacked my new harmonium. Devotees were resting. And kind of shut the door, my door opened a little bit. And I was just so softly, just catching a few keys. And Govinda Maharaj's servant walked by. And he heard the harmonium. And he went, "Oh, harmonium." I was like, the forbidden instrument. The forbidden instrument. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I really like harmonium." He came in, sat down on my bed, and he goes, "Yeah, we always played harmonium in my house, and this and that, and all this stuff." He goes, "I don't know why we never played harmonium in our ashram, in our temple." And I thought, my gosh, he's a disciple of Sridhar Maharaj. He's been in the mutt. Now he's the assistant of Govinda Maharaj, who is the next Acharya. And he's never been told why they don't play harmonium or anything like that. They just don't. It's like, let me see, why don't we play saxophone in our ashrams? It's just like, do we even have to answer that question? It's just that you don't play saxophone. You don't do that, right? Well, in Govinda Maharaj's ashram, Sridhar Maharaj's ashram, playing the harmonium is like playing the saxophone. We don't play those instruments. One, they're not part of the Sankirtan, they're not Vedic, Bhaktisiddhanta didn't allow it, etc., etc. But you can see that Prabhupada played it at home, didn't he? When he was a householder. He didn't just suddenly learn to play the harmonium when he came to America. He played the harmonium at home, but never in the temple. Just in, playing harmonium, singing himself, And if you see, I think they call it riffs. Every once in a while, Prabhupada is doing a little music there with the thing. But not so much that it's distracting. So those of you who do play a musical instrument like the guitar, first it should be pretty much how Babaji does it. just the 3 or the 4 chords that just accompany. It's almost like it sets 2 things. It sets the key that you're playing in, and then after that it's just a rhythm instrument. It's a rhythm instrument with a key, whereas a drum is simply rhythm. It doesn't set the key. The singer sets it. So now, if we ever got together a nice bhajan group with tabla and sitar and guitar and flute and the whole thing like that for the public presentation, then your musical ability can come more into play and more into service. It's just like if you're a dancer, Shamla's a dancer, right? But if you have a kirtan, we don't expect her to jump out in the middle of the floor and start doing all the fancy footwork and spinning around and the dress up in the air and all that stuff. It'd be like, wait a minute, you know? So when she dances in kirtan, it has to be more simple, you know? We're not the wild dancers in our mission anywhere. India here, Estados Unidos, nowhere. We're the old folks, humble waddlers, you know. We just waddle back and forth a little bit. You're not running up and down the floor and spinning in circles, jumping up off the chair and landing on top of everybody. Yeah, believe me. I mean, how that goes on, I never know. Even when dancing got a little bit out of control in the 70s, Srila Prabhupada nipped it. He said, it's a distraction. This wild, frenzic dancing is just a distraction. There came a time you'd go on the street in New York to join the Sankirtan party and look up ahead and you'd see all these bobbing butts, you know? And you'd get up there and the kirtan would be facing in a circle and all the people would see was the backside of the devotees bopping up and down, you know? I called it bobbing butts, you know? And they're all looking at each other, going like this, and the people were like, somebody die in that circle or what? And when he changed things, later, a few months later, one devotee, Kirtanananda Swami, wrote a letter. He said, well, Prabhupada, since we stopped the enthusiastic dancing, the kirtans are not as ecstatic. So he wrote back and said, never mind ecstatic. What do you mean ecstatic, ecstasy? There's never been an ecstasy kirtan. I don't know if there's ever been one after, a few special kirtans where there were very special people involved and things like that. It's a cheap word. Oh man, that was ecstatic. Oh really? When that's ecstatic, you won't be able to get up and drive your car that same day. It's like, these are cheap words. Oh, ecstatic. They become just, oh yeah, that was ecstatic kirtan, You see how the girls were looking at me when I was playing the fancy doodah and the drum? You see that? The guys going like this, spinning back and forth. Follow their history, where these boys end up. Not that being a householder is bad, but usually it's just big show. Big show. So, any musical instrument, we should limit them in the main bhajans and kirtans. I love like the campfire kirtan. That's where, you don't always have to sing the Panchatapa mantra first. I call them the campfire kirtans, a little bit. But even there, it's just, if you're really into kirtan and bhajan, what do? You're worshiping Krishna through the holy name. You don't need any of these other musical distractions going here and there. So it's up to, Babaji is the maestro of the musical end of the community here. And so it's up for you to teach that other people have musical abilities, whoever. I don't know, there's not that many of us here with musical abilities, but the musical instrument is to accompany and not distract. It doesn't need to improvise. Just catch the rhythm and the note, and however many chords or whatever it is, notes that you play with that. I think a chord kind of just sets the overall tone, but a note may go Like if I love you, ding dong ding, you know, it goes with that. Right? But when it separates from that and just plays off a little do-do-do-do on the side, that is a distraction. If someone is really listening to the holy name, it's like, what, somebody ring a doorbell? What was that sound? Understand? It just kind of goes off. So in the beginning, that even might be part of our enthusiasm. But that also has to be channeled, our enthusiasm. In the beginning of the Sankirtan movement in the West, devotees, they were so enthused, they wanted to shout something, right? They're doing Kirtan in the street and all the people walking by. Well, they're shouting Hare Krishna, but they wanted to shout something. So Vishnu John Swami introduced Back to Home, Back to Godhead. Kirtan be going on, you know, drums and kartals, and it would stop for a second and then just be going on, and then he'd be going, back to home, back to Godhead, and 30 devotees singing, back to home, back to Godhead. Well, you know, that little bit of sound doesn't benefit anybody. So then they asked Prabhupada, is there anything we can shout? What was the answer? Hari Bol. Follow the history of that little thing. Yes, you can shout Hari Bol. Then that became whole kirtans. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Going on, and Jagoranga, Jagoranga, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. It's like, limit that to a minute part. I'd say less than a 5% of any kirtan. If it went for an hour, it's just a little piece. Because the most benefit for you, for me, the chanter, the hearer, the trees even, and everybody is the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Purana Sindhu, Dina Bandhu, Jagatpade, Gopisha, Gopi Kanta, Radha